right, Genesis 14. And it came to pass in the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of nations, that these made war with Bera, king of Sodom, and with Bersha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, and Shemeber, the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, which is Zoar. All these were joined together in the vale of Siddim, which is the Salt Sea. Now, I think it's the Salt Sea after what happens later in Genesis. I'm not sure if it's the Salt Sea yet. But again, this is written much later. Verse 4, 12 years they served Chedorlaomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. And in the 14th year came Chedorlaomer and the kings that were with him, and smote the Rephaims and Ashtaroth Karnaim, and the Zuzims in Ham, and the Emims in Sheva Kirithaim. So let me pause there. Those three peoples that are named are considered to be giants elsewhere in Scripture. The Rephaims, Zuzims, and the Emims. So it's not really dwelt upon here, but you got to go and study that elsewhere. Verse 6, and the Horites in their Mount Seir unto El Paran, which is by the wilderness. And they returned and came to En-Mishpat, which is Kadesh, and smote all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites that dwell in Hazez-on-Tamar. And there went out the king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboim, the king of Bela, the same as Zoar. And they joined battle with them in the vale of Siddim, with Chedorlaomer the king of Elam, and with Tidal king of nations, and Amraphel king of Shinar, and Arioch king of Elasar, 4 kings with 5. And the vale of Siddim was full of slime pits, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled and fell there, and they that remained fled to the mountain. And they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all the victuals, and went their way. And they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. And there came one that had escaped, and told Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt in the plain of Mamre the Amorite, brother of Eshcol, and brother of Aner, and these were confederate with Abram. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his trained servants, born in his own house, 318, and pursued them unto Dan. And he divided himself against them, he and his servants, by night, and smote them, and pursued them unto Hobah, which is on the left hand of Damascus. And he brought back all the goods, and also brought again his brother Lot and his goods, and the women also, and the people. Now, the one thing I'll say there, this place called Dan, I don't know if it was called Dan then, but Dan's going to be one of the children of Israel, and there'll be a region or a tribe allocation for Dan, and I don't know if that's a reference to that. Of course, this is written after that would be the case. All right, the other thing you have here is it's amazing that Abram and his servants are able to go and defeat these people. But you might say, well, they weren't prepared. They probably were drinking, and they were worn out from the war. So, all right, keep going. Verse 17, and the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of Chedorlaomer and of the kings that were with him at the valley of Sheva, which is the king's dale. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God. And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth. And blessed be the Most High God, which hath delivered thine enemies into thy hand. And he gave him tithes of all. And the king of Sodom said unto Abram, Give me the persons, and take the goods to thyself. And Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted up my hand unto the Lord, the Most High God, the possessor of heaven and earth, that I will not take from a thread even to a shoe latchet, and that I will not take anything that is thine, lest thou shouldest say, I have made Abram rich, save only that which the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men which went with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre, let them take their portion. So you have an interesting event here with this man named Melchizedek, and he's mentioned in Hebrews quite significantly. It says he's a priest of the Most High God. He's also a king, which is quite interesting to be both a king and a priest. evidently at Babel, not everybody was an idolater. Here's a man that worships the true God. So I guess God sends him out to meet Abram. And maybe he's aware somehow of what God's going to do with Abram. And so he comes out to bless him. And Abram gives him a tithe. This is where a tithe seems to get started. And also they have bread and wine, which you can say is the kind of like the Lord's Supper, a communion. So a lot of interesting things showing up at this particular part of Genesis. That's it.